Welcome back to The Critique. Today we're looking at a transcript from Tinashi Peter connecting communism, education, and spiritual warfare through Romans 8.
It's an ambitious piece. He's really trying to build a big overarching theory here.
He is, and our goal is to help him make sure that bridge between the politics and the theology is rock solid. So let's jump right in. The first thing for me is structure.
The flow, yeah.
Specifically, the core thesis about the carnal mind. It's a powerful idea, but where does he actually introduce it?
It's buried. I mean, it's like halfway through the entire thing.
Way too late.
Yeah. First we get the slippery slopes, then a long read from the Communist Manifesto, then Dr. Kindred, then this whole detour about ice and vanilla ice.
Right. So by the time we finally get to Romans 8, the listener is kind of lost. They don't know if this is a political rant or a sermon.
And that's the weakness. The current structure just dilutes his main point, because the strongest piece of evidence, the spiritual diagnosis, comes after this long, meandering preamble.
Exactly. You're left guessing for way too long.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
Isn't he trying to hook the political folks first? Draw them in with Marx and the critique of wokeism, and then, once they're on board, hit them with the theology?
I see the logic, but I don't think it works here, because he's already using words like demonic right up front.
That's true. He's not hiding his worldview.
Not at all. So the problem isn't that it's too religious. It's that without the Romans 8 framework at the start, all those political points feel, disconnected, like a list of grievances instead of evidence for a central claim.
So you're saying the scripture isn't the punchline, it's the lens.
Precisely. The suggestion is to re-engineer the whole narrative. You move Romans 8:5-7, the part about the carnal mind being enmity against God, you move that to the very first minute of the video.
Make it the thesis statement.
Yes. Imagine he opens like this. The Bible tells us the carnal mind is at war with God. Today, I'm going to show you what that war looks like inside our schools. Boom.
Okay, yeah, that's immediately stronger.
Now, when he gets to the Communist Manifesto, he's not just reading a historical text.
He's presenting Exhibit A.
Exactly. He can say, Marx demands the abolition of the family. Why? Because the carnal mind hates God's design for order.
That turns a history lesson into a criminal indictment. It's much more active.
It is. And speaking of things that break the flow, we have to talk about the vanilla ice moment.
Knew it was coming. Look, I laughed. I'll admit it. The transition from ice to ice baby was clever. It shows personality.
It does, but it's about authority. He's trying to build a case that our kids are being targeted by a literal demonic ideology. That's a 5-alarm fire.
And you don't stop to tell jokes during a 5-alarm fire.
You don't. You create tonal whiplash. You pivot from this incredibly grave warning to a rap break, and you signal to the audience, hey, I'm just a guy on the internet having some fun.
Instead of, I'm a watchman on the wall.
That's the distinction. It undermines the seriousness of his own argument. He tries to pivot back to a serious point about kings building high walls, but the mood is already broken.
The spell is broken. Yeah.
So the concrete suggestion is to cut it. Cut the whole rap bit. Save it for a different, maybe lighter video. In this context, it just doesn't serve the core mission.
Right. You're diagnosing a cancer. You don't crack a joke while reading the MRI.
Perfect. And that idea of a diagnosis brings us to the second critique, the robustness of the argument itself.
Okay. The connection between the jihadists and the Western woke left.
The blue and purple-haired, they-them entity, yes.
It's a bold claim. He says they're interlinked at the foundation, but then he immediately admits that in the real world, one would throw the other off a building.
Which is true. And he knows it sounds like a stretch. So he mentions horseshoe theory, but it feels rushed.
Yeah, it's sort of a hand wave, like they're the same because they both want to destroy things.
And that's the weakness. It's asking the listener to make a huge intuitive leap. A skeptic will just tune out right there and say, nope, one is religious theocracy, the other is secular atheism. You're reaching.
So how does he fix it? Because I think the instinct is right. There is a common thread there.
He needs to build a much stronger theological bridge. The suggestion is to stop focusing on their political goals and focus entirely on their shared method.
The spirit of destruction.
The spirit of anarchy, yes. He mentions that conversation with Abton, the guy who fought ISIS.
Right, but he just drops it in and moves on.
So he needs to use it. The fix is explicitly define anarchy as a theological force, not just a political one. Argue that while the end goals are opposites, a caliphate versus a communist utopia, their method is identical.
The forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. He literally quotes that from the manifesto.
He does. That's the linchpin. Frame the entire conflict as order versus chaos. God's order is represented by the king, who builds high walls to protect.
And the enemy, the spirit of chaos, can wear a turban one day and have purple hair the next.
Exactly. Now, it doesn't matter that they hate each other. They're both just tools for the same destructive force. That makes the argument robust. It turns a shaky political theory into a solid spiritual one.
I like that a lot. It feels more bullet. Okay, so speaking of evidence, let's talk about how he uses the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, that brings us to critique number 3, delivery and pacing. He spends a lot of time just reading from it.
A lot of time, and you can feel the energy just sag.
Completely.
He even says something like, I know this is jargon, but we have to go through every page. It felt defensive, you know? Like he knew he was losing the audience.
It's what I call the homework fallacy, the belief that showing all your research makes your point stronger. But for video or audio, it's the opposite.
Right. If I'm reading a book, I can slow down. I can reread a dense sentence about the proletariat. But when I'm just listening, it's a wall of words that just washes over you.
The cognitive load is too high. The listener is there to hear his analysis, his synthesis, not an audiobook of Karl Marx.
But he needs to prove his point, right? He can't just say, Marx said this, without some kind of receipt.
Of course. But there's a much better way. The suggestion is to stop reading big blocks of text and start using what you could call weaponized quotes.
Weaponized quotes. I like that. What do you mean?
It means instead of reading a whole paragraph on class struggle, you find the one sentence that draws blood.
Okay, give me an example.
He quotes this line: "The communists disdain to conceal their views. Forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions." Just use that.
That's punchy, violent.
It is. And then you immediately follow it with your own commentary. Don't let the quote just hang there. As soon as he says forcible overthrow, he needs to connect it to today. He has that brilliant line later on about how modern Marxism lets a conservative brown man be labeled an oppressor.
That was a great line. Really sharp.
It was. So you stitch them together. You read the quote from Marx, and then you immediately say, see, that's the spirit of overthrow. And today it looks like this.
That keeps the momentum. It keeps us in the present, not stuck in 1848.
Exactly. It shows you've done the reading without making your audience do the reading. Okay, so that leads us to the final, and I think maybe the most important critique, the call to action.
The ending. Yeah, he's speaking directly to men, to father. It's clearly passionate. He's fired up.
The emotion is powerful. He's telling them to stand up. Stop watching filth. Stop being the basketball guy. Stop playing video games.
It's raw.
It is, but it's what I'd call negative command syndrome.
It's a list of things not to do.
It's all prohibitions. Don't do this, don't do that. And that's fine. It's necessary even. But it leaves a void. Okay, I stopped playing video games. Now what? What do I do with that hour? How do I actually fight this war he just described?
He mentions being fruitful and multiply, but it's a bit vague. It comes across as just have kids and get a job.
Right. So the suggestion here is to make the conclusion a concrete blueprint. Give these fathers their marching orders.
So what would that look like? I mean, he drops a few hints. He talks about his own praying mama and daddy.
That's gold. He needs to use that. Instead of just saying don't play video games, he should say, take the hour you spent on the couch and start a family prayer routine, the same way my parents did for me.
That's a positive, additive action. It's something to do.
Yes, and what else? The whole first half of the video is about the social engineering and brain rot in schools, the skibidi toilet stuff.
Right.
So the call to action should be to fight that directly.
Audit your kids' devices.
Exactly. Audit their homework. Read their history textbook. See what's actually in there. That is what subduing the earth looks like for a dad in 2026.
I like that framing. It's not just about avoiding sin, it's about actively building a defense, becoming the editor-in-chief of your household.
That's it. That's the frame. You're transforming the father from a passive consumer into an active warrior. That's what this audience is looking for. They feel helpless. He needs to hand them a sword, not just a list of things to avoid.
It changes the whole tone of the ending from a rant to a strategy session.
It does. And that's how you want the listener to feel at the end, energized and equipped.
Okay, so let's recap the whole thing for Tanashi. 4 big takeaways.
Let's do it.
First, structure. Move the Romans 8 carnal mind diagnosis right to the top. Make it the lens for the entire piece.
Second, the argument. Strengthen that link between jihadism and wokeism using the theological frame of order versus chaos, not just the political horseshoe theory.
Third, pacing. Ditch the long audiobook readings of Marx. Use short, weaponized quotes and immediately connect them to a modern example to keep the energy up.
And fourth, the call to action. Shift from negative commands, what not to do, to positive, concrete marching orders. Tell fathers exactly how to become the editor-in-chief of their homes.
Tinashe, the raw material here is powerful. The passion is undeniable. You've tapped into a real fear your audience has. But passion needs a strong structure to have an impact.
With these changes, you're not just outlining the problem, you're handing your audience a battle plan. So we invite you to take these suggestions, rework the script, and we'd love to see the next draft.
Absolutely. I really think this piece could be something special.
Me too. That's all for this edition of The Critique. We look forward to seeing your work improve. Class dismissed.